class ratio analysis in the today's session. We'll try to
Mr.
understand.
Sorry to interrupt you. I believe this is very important decision. Let's take opinion of everybody. Let's poll it. That preparation or revision. Then I think we should go ahead.
Yeah, Arpita, you want revision or pre-preparation?
Sir, what I think is we do last class on Sunday, and then if the this orientation class is on Friday, so there is a good amount of gap is there. So what I personally think is that we should do both. Like if we are doing for 2 hours, then 1 hour or maybe 45 minutes to 1 hour, we can do a recap, quick recap, not a full theoretical, not the full thing, but maybe a quick recap of the topics that was covered on Sundays. So what happens if on Sunday or throughout the week, if we have gone through the materials and we have some doubts on what, so we can in that time we can clear those things. Or and for the next session we can have like 30 to 40 minutes, whatever is going to get covered in the next session, that quick thing also, quick notes or something, quick introduction to each topic we can have, so that on Sunday when we actually have the class, that time we at least we are aware of the topic, not full thing but at least we are aware. So I'm thinking we can divide the thing, whole 2 hours for one thing. I don't know, I personally think if both are nice, revision and the pre-preparation both are a good thing, so we can divide the time now based on others opinion also, so we can think, but I believe this approach could be better.
Chaitanya?
Hello, sir.
Chaitanya?
Hello, sir. I just now I joined in the Zoom's meeting.
The
Uh,
question is like the actual class we are taking care on Sunday. So the orientation classes, the concept is two concept. We are aware of our concepts, right? You are our old student. So we advise the students to prepare the topic before the teacher teaches, or after teacher delivering the lecture, you can revise. So you want pre-preparation or you want the revision.
Earlier, what Arpita said that is good, sir. Both after completion of the Sunday the class, we can do the revision, and next
We can
Sunday
do
the
like
class.
this.
What are the topics?
We
Whatever
can
the
take
next
this,
class.
the responsibility. The responsibility will be two ways. Okay. As a team leader for this CMA course, as your success partner for CMA for this October 2026 batch, I'm taking the responsibility of pre-preparation. Okay. So revision, your responsibility, I will be there, but I'm not going to teach anything. Every student must come forward as we discussed with Mr. Iftikhar. And personally on the phone call, he is ready and is encouraging, is motivating. So revision should be done by the student. So every student has to select one formula or one topic, some 10 minutes, 5 minutes, come and explain. Okay, you will get the clarity, or some students may not get the clarity, they will get the clarity. Okay, so what we agreed, revision is my responsibility. Sorry, pre-preparation is my responsibility, revision is your responsibility. Okay, now I see from Monday till today, maybe one or two students are given time to the CMA. Okay, so now let's fix every day 2 hours, 7:30 to 9:30 if I am not available due to the other schedules. But make sure that I will be arranging a coordinator, class coordinator who will be joining, who will be there in the class, and all the classes will be recorded. So please take the responsibility of the revision every day. One student tasked to explain the concepts. Okay, because people are becoming professionals. You must speak, you must talk, because after completion of the course, once you become a consultant, you are a certified CMA. So you have a basic responsibility to explain the scenarios, real-time figures. So you must speak with the financial figures and you must deliver to the top level management. So this is basically responsibilities. So by own, give me the topic name, formula names, or abilities, this. Or otherwise, we know how to handle it, they know aware of us. Okay, by force, we'll give the topics. You have to participate. This is for your passing. Not only the passing is important, after passing, the career is very, very important. Okay, we can see many. I want to stop the recording. We can see in the market.
Sir, 9:30, yeah, daily.
The 9:30 will close.
Okay.
Will those
Okay,
speak?
thank you.
You have anything, you can leave the class. The recording is available, but we feel that face-to-face class will give you more advantage. So let us start the CMA orientation for October 2026, the ratio analysis part 3. In the previous class, we discussed, quickly we will revise introduction to ratio analysis and the techniques of the ratio analysis, advantages of ratio analysis, and we discussed limitations of the ratio analysis, and we discussed the classification of the ratios. In that, first one is the traditional classification, functional classification, importance, based upon the importance, the classification, and the time classification and usage classification, nature ratios classification. Total 6 classifications are there. Okay. From that, first one is the traditional classification. In that, we understood that the ratios are classified as the balance sheet ratios, profit and loss ratios, and mixed ratios. Okay. So functional classification, we have completed. The liquidity ratios, directly we started. Okay, quick ratio, current ratio, quick ratio, we completed. And these all ratios we are going to complete today, remaining part, classifications. Okay, directly we'll jump onto the problematic areas, liquidity or short-term solvency ratios. In that, we have the liquidity ratio measures the short-term solvency of the firm, that is current ratio and working capital ratio first. So in the exam, we may give a working capital ratio. Okay, by solving the number of questions, make a notes. So maybe I teach only with the name called ratio and current ratio. But in the exam, the examiner may ask working capital ratio, working capital ratio. So please make sure your short notes with the full alternative names of the formulas and alternative numerator, denominator of the formulas. Okay, this is the only trick in the ratio analysis, current ratio and working capital ratio. And the ideal ratios, you must know the ideal ratio 2:1, quick ratio or acid test ratio. So I'm giving the names. Every ratio have 2 names. Okay. And ideal ratio is 1:1. Absolute liquid ratio or super quick ratio. Current ratio, working capital ratio. Quick ratio, acid test ratio. Absolute liquidity ratios or super quick ratios. Basic, defensive, interval ratios. So this is the
Sir, can I
revision.
ask? Sorry
Yes,
for
yes.
disturbing you, sir. Can I? Sir,
No,
the ratio analysis, we didn't get the PDF, sir.
Okay, I will share
the-
because I didn't share because still I'm working on these PPTs.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, sir.
today, inshallah, I will finish tonight.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then and tonight, inshallah, tomorrow, by tomorrow, I will try to share. Okay,
Yes.
please, and we have to prepare the short notes. We got logins, right? Material is available today. Inshallah, so let's start the topic today. Leverage ratio. Leverage or capital structure ratios. Sir, we have to mug up the ratios, or we have to understand the ratios, or how to learn the ratios. Because this is your day-to-day life. Now your life is debit and credit. Once you become a CMA, your life is different. Okay. So how to understand means you must know the vocabulary of the management language. So what is the meaning of leverage? English meanings are different compared to the commerce meanings. Commerce meanings. Leverage, don't take much advantage. We use these words, right? The guy is taking more benefits than expected. So let us how to understand the ratios. Only thing is you must know the meanings of each and every word. It is very easy to understand. If you try to mug up this vocabulary, leverage, capital structure, never ending process. Because interpretation is very, very important. Your comment is very, very important. After getting the result, what is your comment? Until unless you not understand the meaning of the formula, you cannot enjoy the subject. You must enjoy the subject. Okay. So here we have the three words here. We have the three words here. What are the three words? One is leverage, capital structure, and ratio. If you join three, leverage or capital structure ratios is your formula name. So leverage means in English, using something to gain an advantage. Using something to gain as an advantage. In finance, using debt to increase the return. If you talk in general, we can say, okay, he is using that guy to get more advantage. So I am telling to leverage yourself. Use Axis, how much you want to use to gain an advantage from us. So we provided top faculties, top material, and dedicated. We are available with the students all the times, and face to face we are available. So you must leverage this opportunity to complete. Same like here we are in the finance. So leverage means using debt. Debt means, what is the meaning of debt? Debt means nothing but a loan. Okay. Using a loan to increase the returns. Using the loan to increase the profits is called leverage. Debt is a loan. But taking the loan and investing in the fixed assets or current assets, how the shareholders will get more profit, how much they are getting, they will get or they will not get, means before investment, after investment, we'll try to understand now. So what is the capital structure? So Arpita, what is the meaning of leverage?
Sir, to take the advantage of to increase our returns means to increase one something and take by taking advantage of something. So that's leverage.
So capital structure. What is the meaning of capital structure? Capital structure is a mix of debt and equity. Capital, the amount invested to start or to run the business is called as capital. If it is a sole proprietor, a single person invest the money, it is called owner's capital. You use the word capital. If it's a partnership firm, two or more persons invested the partners capital. When behind the partners, more people are invested from the any kind of corner, where huge capital is divided into small parts is called as an equity. So here capital structure, when you want to open a company, you will invest your own funds or you will take a loan. But when you are opening a new company, who will give the loan? Nobody will give the loan. So now these ratios will help us now from the investment point of view. So capital structure is a mix of debt and equity used by the company to finance its assets and operations. Capital structure is a mix of debt and own funds and loan. Company is using own financial, own capital amount and the loan amount which they bring from outside used by the company to finance its assets and operations. And what is the meaning of ratio? Is a relationship between two numbers. Are two aspects. Two aspects of P&L are two aspects of balance sheet are from one aspect from P&L to one aspect from the balance sheet. So it will give you the relationship between the two aspects. It's called as a ratio. It is expressed in numbers, expressed in digits. So what is our topic today? What is the formula we are going to understand? Leverage ratios or capital structure ratios. So leverage plus capital structure plus ratios is the word is equals to relationship between the debt and equity. That means the owner, how much he bring his own money and how much he bring the money from the outsider. For example, I am the owner of the company. I invested 10,000 dirhams. So I took the money from Mr. Iftekhar. He given me 15,000 dirhams. Can I take 15,000 dirhams? What is the risk? Low risk or high risk? This type of analytics we will do today. Can I accept or not accept? If I accept, it is risky or not risky. Instead of taking the loan, if I invest full my money into the company, no, don't invest from your pocket. Take the loans. The big companies, what they will do? They're like Reliance, right? These big companies, they will invest their own money? No. They will take the loan, fund the finance, and they will run the show. Who will advise? Now, as a CMA expert, you need to advise which option they need to select for the capital structure. Because safeguarding the interest of the owner and safeguarding the interest of the investor and the creditor is very, very important whose responsibility. So after understanding these ratios, inshallah, you will be more enough capable to decide the capital structure of the company, how it will learn. So leverage of capital structure ratios or leverage ratios indicate the relative interest of owners and the creditors in the business. Relative interest. For example, I invested 10,000. Iftekhar sir invested 15,000. Who will focus more? Obviously, Iftekhar sir will show more interest in our business because he invested more than me. More than me. But if we compare, if you think from other side, I took the loan, that's my responsibility to refund with the interest. So I will be more interested to run the business. And like this, see how we need to understand, just I'm trying to help. And capital structure or leverage ratios measure the proportion of financing provided by, see, proportion of financing provided by the owners or equity shareholders and creditors, that is called as debt holders. The terminology is very, very important. We know the words owners. So in UAE, mostly owners, we call owners or partners in the trade license. Okay, but equity shareholders, in which case we call them as equity shareholders. And creditors, that's a debt holder. I'm using the word creditors. Generally, as an accountant, creditor means the vendor from whom we'll purchase the material. But here I'm using the word creditors, that's a debt holder who given the loan to us. And these ratios helps in assessing the degree of financial risk. The degree of financial risk. Or the balance between the debt and equity financing. How much I have to take my own funds, how much I have to take from Mr. Iftekhar's funds. And the claim of owner versus creditors on the assets, on the profits of the business. Claim of the owners are the investors, are the creditors, are the debt holders on the assets and the profit of the business. So I invested 10,000. If the cars are invested 15,000. So how much profit he can, who will take more profit? So with the help of these ratios, we can understand what is the claim of the owner versus the creditors and the assets. So are you understanding what we are trying to learn? All of you understanding
Yes,
the
sir.
language what we are using? Okay. So I
Yes,
think
sir. I'm
ratio
understanding, sir. Yeah.
I think this ratio is already completed last Sunday, right? Okay. Now, example of capital structure or leverage ratio are, there are 6 to 7 ratios. Today we are going to trying to complete, inshallah, if time permits. Debt to equity ratio. Debt to equity ratio, only debt ratio, only equity ratio. So capital structure ratios measures the portion of financing. Capital gearing ratio, gears in the car. First gear, second gear, third gear. Then Tirupati will say, sir, in UAE, we'll drive the car without gear. So this ratio is not applicable for the UAE students. Capital gearing ratio. Proprietary ratio, interest coverage ratio, and fixed charge coverage ratio. So each and every ratio is helping us to assess the degree of financial risk. All these ratios are helping us the balance between the debt and the equity financing. These all ratios will help us to understand the claim of the owner versus creditors and the assets and the profits of the business. Are you ready to understand? Can we start?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
start.
Sir.
So we go more into the vocabulary. I'm trying to teach you the vocabulary, the problematic. I will try and I will one example I will take and I will finish because I'm trying to understand the subject, that if you understand the vocabulary, the meanings, then you can complete these things very fast. So leverage means the loan. Leverage ratio, capital structure ratio. So leverage means the loan. Loan means borrowed money. Borrowed money. More loan, more leverage. Means more leverage means more risk, more return. More return also. If you bring more funds invested, you will get more return. But more risk. High risk, high return. Finance is saying high risk, high return. Take one time risk and finish CMO. growth, right, with a additional risk. So leverage uses loans and equities to create a value. Debt. Next one is debt. Debt means debt and equity. B for borrowing, P for total capital. Debt ratio. Debt ratio means equity and the debt. Maybe debentures, maybe the long-term loans. B for borrowings. So D plus B plus E is equals to total capital. So debt ratio. Leverage ratios are all about debt. All these leverage ratios will talk about owner's equity. All these ratios talk about the debentures. All these ratios are talking about the long-term liabilities of the borrowings. And these all ratios is talking about the total capital, how much invested. And ROC, relative interest of the owners and the creditors. Return on capital, return on investment. Return means return of whom? Owners and creditors. Here the creditor means the debt holder. Here the creditor means debt holder. Try to understand the vocabulary without knowing these meanings. Don't try to mug up the formula. ROC. ROC means relative interest. We studied just 15 minutes before. Who are interested? This ratios is talking about the owners and the well lenders. So ROC. So leverage ratios shows the relative interest of the owners and the creditors. So capital structure is equal to D plus E, debt plus equity. Debt plus equity. So this is the title, just still we are understanding, we are trying to understand the title, why the name leverage, what it is means, and what are the components of the leverage. Okay, that's what we are trying to understand. So debt to, next topic is called as, first formula is debt to equity ratio. In the leverage capital structure ratios, the first formula is called as debt to equity ratio. Debt means debt, equity means equity, owner fund. What is the ratio? Debt to equity ratio indicates the relative claim of creditors and the shareholders against the assets of the business. If something goes wrong. So what is the claim of the debt holders and what is the claim of the owners? Debt to equity ratio. It shows the relationship between the long-term debts and the shareholders' funds. It will show the relationship. Debt to equity ratio measures how much debt is used. How much debt is used for every rupee invested by the shareholders. Components of debt to equity ratio is long-term debt, long-term liability, like a bank loan. Debt to equity ratio. What is the meaning of debt? Is a loan. So which type of components are called as a debt? One is you taken a bank loan, the debentures, bonds, and long-term borrowings. Shareholder funds, very, very, very important. Shareholder funds means not only the equity. Shareholder funds means this is the, we are trying to frame the formula now. The formula is very easy. But these are the components. Equity, shareholder fund means share capital plus preference share capital plus reserves and surplus. So what is the formula? Debt to equity ratio is equals to total debt divided by total equity. Total debt means when you are checking the balance sheet on the liability side, bank loan is there, debentures is there, bonds is there, long-term borrowings is there, plus is called as total debt. Shareholder funds means not only share capital, not only equity share capital, equity share capital, plus preference share capital, plus reserves and surplus. What is the formula for the debt to equity ratio, Mr. Girish?
Total debt by total equity.
What is the components for the total equity?
Component.
Tirupati, what are the components of total debt? Okay. Now, ideal ratio for debt to equity ratio is 2:1. A debt to equity ratio of 2:1 is considered as ideal ratio. 2:1. That means 2 rupees of loan and 1 rupee of share capital, like that. Okay, let us understand more. Creditors are exposed to relatively lower risk and company will enjoy the financial leverage. See the beauty. The ideal ratio is 2:1. If you got the answer 2:1 means company will enjoy the leverage, means company will take extra advantage and creditors will not feel any risk. That's why this is the ideal ratio. Debt to equity ratio will give you the financial risk for both the parties. One for the debt holders, second one is the shareholders. So what is the ideal ratio? 2:1. What is the meaning of 2:1? If it is ideal means, okay, brother, no risk for the creditors, as well as leverage means something, by using something will get more return. Means here, not only my funds, I'm using the loans and I'm enjoying the more profits. If it is high, if it is low, we'll see. Like this, we need to understand the subject.
Sir, one doubt, sir. Sorry for disturbing. Sir, hello.
Yes.
Okay. So this debt means actually we can use this debt for short-term liabilities also. We can use debt.
No, never. Short-term liabilities cannot be used to invest in fixed assets. Okay, that the point will come soon. Okay, next third or fourth slide. Your question you will get an answer.
Okay, sir.
Long-term liabilities is a long-term liabilities. Debentures is a long-term liability. Bank loan, it consisting of two parts. It's a good question. Just I'm trying to give because I want to complete the chapter also. This bank loan, this part is two parts. One is the principal amount, which is taken for 5 years. But current period is a current liability, is a short-term liability. So bank loans are divided in two parts. One is some portion will go to long-term debt and some portion will come to current year, current liabilities. Okay, so you must have the knowledge of preparation of the balance sheet to enjoy the subject. At least try to prepare 2 to 2 audit reports. Okay, at least try to understand 2 audit reports. Okay, we can share any number of audit reports. If you need to, if you give the time, we will make you perfect. Okay, so now example will let us understand. What is the formula, Girish? Debt to equity ratio, total debt divided by total equity. And equity means equity shares, preference shareholders, plus reserves and surplus. Agreed? Okay. Now debt is 600,000, equity is 400,000. So what is the formula? 600,000 divided by 400,000. The answer is 1.5. What is the ideal ratio? 2:1. Now our answer is 1.5:1. So interpretation, for every $1 invested by the owner, creditor have invested 1.5. Ideal ratio is, if owner invested 1 rupee, the creditor has to invest 2 rupees, 2 dirhams, $2. Okay, now understood how to interpret, how to understand the answer 2:1. Here, debt to equity. First 2 is debt. That how to interpret. Debt to equity, 2:1. Debt is in the first sentence, which 2 belongs to debt. Means 2 loans, 1 equity. If owner invested 1 dirham, you have to bring the 2 dirhams loan. Ideal ratio. In that case, owner will take the leverage and creditors will not feel any risk. So in this example which I given, this is 1.5:1. The next example, suppose long-term debt is 4 and shareholders fund is 2. And so now, what is the ratio? 2:1. 2:1. So every $1 invested by the shareholder, creditors have invested $2. Like this, we need to understand. We need to understand how much money owner paid, and in the ratio, how much percentage, who contributed more, who invested more. We need to understand. How to understand? Okay, we taken loan 500,000 and owner capital is showing 2.5. 2:1. The ratio. And another, high the debt to equity ratio. High the debt to equity ratio means ideal ratio is 2:1. Now in this case, 900 divided by 3. The debt to equity ratio is 3:1, which affects high financial risk. High financial risk because he took the loan behind the limit. He can take the loan if he have 1 dirham, he can take the loan of 2 dirhams only. He cannot go for 3 dirhams. That means he is taking high risk, high financial risk. Greater burden of interest, more burden of interest will come. We can understand these things when you are going for a credit card or when you are going for a bank loan. These interest rates will play. Okay. Lower borrowing capacity and creditors face high risk. Okay. The leverage ratios, the debt to equity ratio, ideal ratio is 2:1. Low debt to equity ratio, example 0.4:1. Actually 2:1. In that case, strong financial position. He is having more, owner is having the capital amount more than the loan. Yes, financial position is good. He is having own funds. He is having own funds. Low risk because there is no interest. Small portion, only 40 fils out of 1 dirham. 40 fils is the interest amount. And better credit worthiness and higher protection to the creditors. No worries, party dirhams. No, I have invested more than you. We can say easily like this. Okay, all of you, debt to equity ratio understood?
Yes, sir. Two
Yes, sir.
questions, sir.
Okay.
First is when we prepare balance sheet, so current portion of long-term liabilities will be deducted from there, right?
When we are preparing the balance sheet, long-term liabilities will be deducted from where?
When we prepare a balance sheet, we distribute the loans into 2 portions. long-term
current-
liabilities and the current portion of the long-term liabilities for current year.
Yes. So here different authors are giving the different opinion. Okay, I given both the clarifications. Okay. So to understand the total liability, you must add interest portion.
Interest also.
Yes, you must add to understand the full liability. Right. So here we are using the word total debt. We are not using the word long-term debt and current debt. Technically, we need to understand the vocabulary of the sentence. Total debt. Total debt कितना है? Without interest, can you measure your total debt?
No, we need to include total liability.
Okay, thank you.
And the second question is, sir, if there are treasury stocks, that we will also add in the equity side, right?
So we are taking the bonds, right? Bonds, securities. Yeah, we can.
Okay, sir.
But to long-term securities. Next ratio is called as proprietary ratio. Mushraf, which ratio we completed?
Before, sir,
Yes.
debit long-term ratio. Debit.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
So it's
Wrong answer.
before we take that one only.
But that is not the name. Hey, that is not the name. Focus. Please write.
Yes.
Okay. Don't think that small word is easy word. No, never.
Yes.
Okay. Girish, which we completed? Which ratio we completed?
Debt to equity ratio, sir.
Debt to equity ratio.
Equity ratio.
What is the formula, Tirupati? Tirupati, are you cooking? We went for coffee tea. Tirupati. Arpita is waiting. Arpita is saying, sir, ask me first. I'm the girl. Girls are first. Princey, are you there today? How are you?
Yeah, sir, I am here.
Oh, you are in UAE or still in India?
No, sir, I am in India still. I'm coming on 10th June. Today I just ticket done.
Very good, very good, very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is the formula, Princey?
Debt equity ratio, total debt upon total equity.
Excellent. What are the components of the total equity, Arpita?
Sir, it is equity share capital, preference share capital, and reserve and surplus.
Percent surplus. Very good. Next, we will jumping onto the proprietary ratio. Proprietor means the owner, right? So proprietary ratio. Proprietary ratio measures the proportion of total assets financed by the owner. How much portion of assets the amount is invested by the owner. This is what we are trying to understand. That is called proprietary ratio. The proprietary ratio expresses the relationship between dangerous word, beautiful word, net worth, that's owner's fund, is equals to and the total assets of the business. Net worth, capital, and the fixed assets. Capital versus total assets of the business. Net worth. So just now we completed total equity, right? Total equity is same and net worth is same, Mr. Iftikhar. Just now we completed debt to equity ratio. In that we understood total equity is equals to equity share capital their preference share capital and reserves and surplus. Is that kind we are using the word owner's fund. Shekhar sir,
Yes, sir.
the net worth is the owner fund. Is the same with the total equity which we learned in the previous formula.
I will guess the answer and say yes, sir.
Guessing the answer is so taking the risk.
Yes,
Very good.
because it's a net worth statement. I know how to prepare. It has different components, so that comes to the balance amount of worth by taking the total assets and reducing the total liabilities. So I think it's yes. Yes, sir.
So high proprietary ratio indicates a strong financial, you don't know? A high proprietary ratio indicates a strong financial position and greater long-term solvency. Greater long-term solvency, high proprietary ratio. And high debt to equity ratio. What is the interpretation, Tirupati? If debt to equity ratio is high, Chaitanya, questions may come anytime. Chaitanya, Girish,
High financial risk, sir.
high financial risk. Excellent answer. Thank you. Thank you. Prince is waiting. Sir is asking only to the boys. I am the youngest girl in the class. Sir is ignoring me. Okay. Nothing is like that. Okay. Proprietary ratio is equals to net worth divided by total assets. Net worth divided by total assets. What is the proprietary ratio? Tirupati, he went for dinner. I will not provide recorded classes from next time. We'll see what is proprietary ratio.
Sir. Net worth divided by total assets.
Excellent. See the energy. You are at home, no? That's why the energy is there. Right, Princey?
Yeah,
Having
sorry,
food-
sir. I in between my father call is come, so that's why I am busy. So I didn't hear you. So that's why I am busy.
No problem. I'm talking about the energy. She's at home. She's eating because mother's high food, home food. That's why the energy is high. So, okay, the components of net worth is a shareholder fund is net worth consists of equity share capital, preference share capital, reserves and surplus, plus undistributed profits minus fictitious assets. Undistributed profit plus minus fictitious assets.
So the answer which I guessed, sir, I will say yes now. Definitely yes.
Definitely yes, because undistributed profit will be very less and fictitious assets will not be there in most of the companies. Next is net worth is equals to, the formula is net worth divided by total assets. Equity Many ratios don't have the any ratios. Good question. Okay. Maybe I didn't come across, but I not seen because I'm teaching these ratios from last 20 years. Never come across with these things. Okay. If the cars are absolute quick ratio, don't ask the previous class or ask today class.
Don't ask the previous class, sir.
Don't ask them. Understood. Okay. Now, next ratio is a capital gearing ratio. So what this ratio will tell us why we have to learn this ratio and why we have to calculate the ratio. So we almost completed 1.5 hours, just we completed 2 ratios. They're going very slow. Okay. So capital gearing ratio, but we are learning, right? We are going slow, but we learn perfectly 2 ratios. We learn formulas, we learn components of formulas, and we learn the ideal ratios, and we learn the interpretation. Capital gearing ratio. It tells us whether the company is using more borrowed money or more owner money to run the business. Proprietary ratio about the fixed assets. Proprietary ratio will tell you in the fixed asset how much owner money is invested. Now capital gearing ratio is telling which amount is invested to run the business. Debt to equity ratio and capital gearing ratio. Debt to equity ratio about the assets or what? I will confuse like this. We stick with the papers. We stick with the components. We stick with the first line of my formula. I explain I'm not using the terminology of ratio analysis. I'm using the simple language to understand. So this ratio is telling us to whether a company is using more borrowed money or more money to run the business. And proprietary ratio is telling us expressing the relationship. So measures the portion of total assets by the owner. And equity, debt to equity ratio indicates the relationship of claim of the shareholders. How much debt used and how much shareholder money is used, invested. So this is about the usage of the funds. Where? No. Right. So debt to equity ratio will help us understand the how much money invested in the total. Proprietary ratio will help us to understand the portion of the assets financed by the owner. Now gearing ratio is helping us to understand, to run the business, how much funds are invested. Capital gearing ratio is the relationship between the funds carrying fixed charge, interest, or fixed dividend and equity shareholder funds. Equity shareholder funds. Capital gearing ratio formula. Capital gearing formula is equals to debentures plus term loans plus preference share capital. Divided by equity share capital plus reserves minus fictitious assets. Equivalent, okay. Numerator fixed interest plus and fixed dividend funds, debentures, long-term loans, and preference share capital. Denominator is equity share capital, reserves and surplus, and fictitious assets. Please on the AC. Equity share capital, reserves and surplus, less fictitious assets. Debentures, long-term loans. यही है जादू बस. Don't get confused the components of net worth. Components of, see the preference share capital in the previous formula. Okay, in the previous component is equity share capital, preference share capital, reserves and surplus share capital. But in this case, preference share capital one up. Because the dividend, fixed dividend. Because of the fixed dividend. When you are distributing the dividend, first the right will come to the preference shareholders. Equity shareholders will not get the fixed dividend. For that purpose, what is dividend, how to calculate, blah, blah, blah. For that purpose, you have to understand the company accounts. There is a chapter. Okay, we're not going into that. So we got what is the numerator and what is the denominator. When you got this and you know what is the use of this ratio, alas. Okay. Explanation, this ratio shows the extent to which the company is financed by the funds carrying a fixed obligation. Fixed obligation. Higher the ratio, highly geared company. Low the ratio, low geared company. Please try to make a notes and revise. Higher the proprietary ratio, higher the debt ratio, debt to equity ratio, higher the capital gearing ratio, what it is. So you need to make a note, high ratio, low ratio. Okay, and shuffle the interpretation. So in English words, the geared means the arranged, if you are financed in a particular way. Capital gearing ratio. Capital is arranged from which sources? Means capital gearing ratio means the capital which is bought with fixed expenditure, fixed charges. Interest on debentures must give. Interest on loan must give. Dividend to the preference shareholder must give. Dividend to the equity shareholders. Oh no. If you have funds, we'll pay, or otherwise we'll not. That's why this ratio will help. Okay, which liability you taken? The liabilities are having a fixed charge, and which is funds carrying fixed charge. Interest every month. Highly geared companies, when fixed interest funds are more than the equity funds, high risk, high financial risk, interest and preference dividend must be paid regularly, difficult to raise the additional loans, which are financed generally through the issue of equity shares. Example, fixed interest funds. What is the formula? Debentures, term loans. Yeah, that is called as a fixed interest funds or fixed dividend funds. Those are fixed interest or fixed dividend funds are debentures. See how is given the question. It's given the question using the word called fixed interest fund divided by equity shareholders fund. Equity shareholder fund means equity share capital plus reserves and surplus. He is not using the word shareholder fund. He is using the word equity shareholder fund. That's why the preference shareholder plant into it. So we'll see better. You are trying to understand these things. Very good approach. So I will tell you here. Shareholder funds. Shareholder funds, equity shareholder funds is different. Specifically, he not mentioned anything. So he used the word only shareholder fund. That means preference share capital is included. That means fixed dividend year. Okay, fixed dividend source of fund is not included. So what is the difference between this sentence and that sentence? Is the only word is equity shareholder fund. That's why I'm telling the focus, the attention is very, very important. A chota word can change your life. If we ignore the word here, shareholder fund, takatak. This is a multiple choice questions. 1, 2, 3. 1 will come with preference share. 2 will come without preference share. So in speed, if you add preference shares, find number 2. The second answer is correct. Some people will not take. Answer number 1 is correct. But my advice to my students is to do the exact answer. Write down the components properly. So interpretation 2:1. The company is highly geared because debt funds are twice the owner fund. Means he has 2 fixed interest liabilities. He is having only 1 dirham as an investment and he is having the 2 fixed interest funds, which is high risk. Low geared companies, highly geared companies, low geared companies. When the equity funds are more than the fixed interest funds, where the fixed interest funds is more highly geared companies, where the own funds is more than the fixed interest rate, low geared companies. Features: low financial risk, better credit worthiness, easier to obtain a loans, and debentures can raise the further financial the borrowings. So in the previous class or in the first class, when we are discussing, we come across that banks will see liquid ratios and all these things. They will take all these ratios. See, imagine what the ratios they will calculate to understand. This ratio compulsory, they will calculate what is the burden of the interest on the company. Example, fixed interest fund is 200,000, own equity is 900,000, 0.3. So here, own funds are more. Then low geared because the shareholder funds are much higher than the debt fund. So who will solve this problem? Step number
sir.
1. Okay, please. Debentures, term loans, preference share capital, equity share capital, reserves, and fictitious assets. So what is the formula? Here, fixed interest and fixed dividend funds divided by equity shareholder funds. Not the shareholder funds, equity shareholder funds. So please take the leverage.
$92%.
92%, inshallah. Prince has to bring 92% in CMA as well. Inshallah, bolo Prince.
After that 92%, we have to convert into ideal ratio, sir.
No, ideal ratio no need to convert. Ideal ratio is ratio to that will help you to view the comment. That will help you to interpret.
But it's necessary for every question, sir.
No, see, some ratios, I given the ideal ratios to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, sir.
Some ratios may not have ideal ratios. I will try to give the clarification for which ratios, why the ideal ratio is not there and why it is there.
Oh.
92%. Iftakhar sir,
Yes, sir.
क्या वो answer?
Is 600,000 divided by 650,000, which is yes, to exact 92.3%.
You used the fixed TTS assets minus करे आप?
जी माइनस कर दिए 92.3%.
What is the comment? Since the ratio is less than 1, okay, then the company is a low grade and has sound financial structure. Don't get confused between the shareholder fund and equity shareholder. Please.
So the gear ratio, capital gear ratio has an ideal one, sir. Like ideal,
Then
there is a ratio.
No
No.
ideal ratio. Always you can check your answer should be less than 1.
Okay, sir. Okay.
If it is, for example, your answer is 2:1, then high grade ratios. High grade ratios signs.
Okay, so that is standard also is there most of the ratios.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Fixed assets ratio. Fixed assets ratio. A fixed assets ratio shows how much of the company's long-term funds are invested in fixed assets. Company's long-term funds. Fixed assets ratios will shows how much of the funds. So we already come across this ratio, proprietary ratio, right? What is proprietary ratio? Measures the own funds in total assets. Here, fixed assets ratio is saying long-term debt invested in fixed assets. That is own fund invested in the fixed assets. Here, long-term debt invested in the assets. A financially sound company should finance its fixed assets with long-term funds and not with the short-term liabilities. समझ में आ गया गिरीश?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now got.
Rinpati, are you back? Raise your hand if you cannot talk. The formula is fixed asset divided by capital employed. See the many words. Capital employed. Capital employed. When the capital employed is equals to equity share capital plus preference share capital plus reserves and surplus plus long-term liabilities minus fictitious assets. Sir, the bariki, the technicality of the formulas are the components. So please have a separate diary and prepare the charts and stick. Or you can use daily one formula as a display image on your phone. Okay. Simple explanation, this ratio indicates the mode of financing fixed assets. If the fixed assets are financed by the long-term funds, the company has a sound financial position. If the fixed assets are financed by the short-term funds, it may lead to liquidity. Ideal ratio is 0.67.1, that is 2/3. This means about 2/3 of the long-term funds are invested in fixed assets. The remaining 1/3 is available for fixed asset ratio is equals to fixed assets 600,000, capital employed 900,000, ideal ratio is 6.1. What is the ideal ratio? 0.67. 0.67. That means the ratio is 0.01. This is considered as ideal. The company has sufficient long-term funds left for working capital. 0.8 more than the ideal. 80% of the long-term funds are invested in fixed assets. Only 20% remains for working capital. This position is acceptable, but not ideal. It is acceptable till less than 1. 1.2. 1.2. So fixed assets are exceeded long-term funds. Means that the working capital, everything they invested. The company is using short-term funds to finance the fixed assets. This indicates a weak financial position and possibly liquidity problem will come. Liquidity problem means, what is the liquidity problem, Mr. Raf?
Sir?
What is liquidity problem?
Liquidity, it's for the company can able to pay its debts.
Which debts?
Like expenses or Sunday creditors for the payable, which end.
Very good. More hard work is required to use the proper language. Don't
Yes,
say the
sir.
creditors and all. The liquidity is current liabilities or short-term liabilities.
Yes.
So interest coverage ratio. It is also called as a debt to service ratio. It shows whether the company is earning enough profit to pay interest expenses or not. Very excellent formula, interest coverage ratio. Interest cover हो रहा नहीं हो रहा. We are in a proper profit. We are in a position to pay the interest on. This ratio is very important for lenders and creditors because it indicates the safety of their loan. The formula is interest coverage ratio is equal to EBITDA divided by interest charges. Profit before interest and tax divided by interest charges in the interest coverage ratio. Interest coverage ratio. The components: profit before interest and tax, profit after tax plus interest plus tax. PAT, profit after tax, you need to add interest, you need to add tax. How many times the company's profit can cover its interest expenses? How many times the company profit will cover its interest expenses? Ideal ratio is 6:1. This means the operating profits are 6 times the interest charges. The operating profits are 6 times the interest charges. There is a sufficient margin of safety for lenders. The company can easily meet its debt obligations. Debt obligations. So PBIT is equals to 600,000. Interest charges is 100,000. 6:1 ideal ratio. Means they have the